Howdy, howdy, Sioux Devil here, and welcome to a bit of a discussion of Game 2 of the CA tournament. If you haven't watched it, there's going to be some spoilers, but the tournament was amazing. The finals were incredible. Go watch it now. It's posted up on YouTube here, and it's also posted up on Twitch. Unbelievable. So... I would really just want to go over some of the things I saw with the Dawei and a few discussions about the finals. So hopefully you're gone if you're going to go watch it. Anyways, the finals between Aerocrastic and Talaxalan Soothsayer was amazing. It was a best of 5 that went to the 5th game, and Aerocrastic, you know, Talaxalan Soothsayer, it's like top 10 player in the world. Like, he's really, really good. You see him up there, maybe top 20. I'm not sure. I've seen him way up there before. And he's the reigning Ever Chosen champion. Very, very solid, very patient. His builds are very optimal. The way he plays them is excellent. His micro is unbelievable. Aerocrastic, very good micro, but he is a bit more of a risk taker. He took a lot of off-meta builds, and in the final, his build with Cetra the Imperishable on his Chariot of the Gods, amazing. And it was an incredible game to watch. Unbelievable. And, you know, I loved his play, and he's definitely a fitting Ever-Chosen champion, because in the first round, remember, if you didn't watch yesterday, he beat Gobble King. And that was unexpected. Like, Gobble King is a very dynamic player as well. Extremely good, top 100, world class, very strong all around. And everyone expected Gobble King to go through. And Aerocrastic won that one. And then he beat, I believe, Loremaster of Sotek in the second round, 2-0. And then came to the final round. So we did see the Dawei twice today. We saw him twice yesterday. Both were losses. One against the Vampire Coast, the Pirates, or should call them the Vampirates maybe. I like that, the Vampirates, easier to remember. And one against the Beastmen. The Vampire Coast was very close. The Beastmen one was not. It was just a kind of a risky play by Shetland Apache versus Talaxalan Soothsayer. But this day was twice played and 2 wins for the Dawei. And we saw another bit of information for our Rune Lord. So the Dawei were played against the Lizardmen, which the Dawei have a big advantage against, and against the Vampire Counts, which I also think the Dawei have an advantage. I don't think it's huge, but I don't think, like, the build that went up against the Dawei just wasn't very strong. I think the Dawei just crushed them. Both games were an absolute demolition. Although I saw Loremaster Sotek did pretty good for a little while. Anyways, the one thing that is different for the Rune Lord is, well, just flip over here. If you look, and the other thing that we saw today is I don't think any of the other Lords have been substantially buffed, I'm sorry to say, because all 4 Dawei games were played with the Rune Lord, and I get the Rune Lord's awesome. The Rune Lord has been made more expensive by 50 gold is what it looks like. Maybe that'll change before the end. I hope not. But one of the other changes they made is to the Rune of Hearth and Home. They made this a 55 meter radius ability instead of 40 meter, which makes it kind of worth it. Like, 55 meters is a long ways compared to 40, and that immunity psychology, it will be good for like a lot of Dawei units, all your lower level units, and it will be the even like units like the Hammers don't have immunity psychology, neither do Ironbreakers. So this could be a very good, very, very good ability, depending on how much it costs. And we'll see what it kind of ends up being when we get into the game. But, you know, the Runesmith that Indie Pride brought against Loremaster, I mean, he did very well. And the build, pretty standard build if we go and look. Oh, not pretty standard. I mean, he had the units he needed. So if we look at the units that Indy Pride brought, he brought a Rune Lord, brought a Rune Smith, brought 1 unit of Miners. I would guess just he had left over. 2 or 3 Longbeards, which are great. The Grumbling Guard, which are outstanding. And, I mean, 2 Giant Slayers and the Dragonback Slayers, 2 Thunders, and the Regiment of Renown. So, and a cannon. Like, just a good, like, again, yeah, I think the cannon was a good pick. Could have brought something else for sure, but just this is a good build, and it's going to be hard to crack for the Lizardmen. Although I think that Loremaster, I brought 2 Kroxigors, which I think was his mistake. You know, 1 Kroxigor maybe, 2 is risky, and he brought the he brought the really heavy cav, the Horned One Riders. Like, he takes those, if he took those 2 Kroxigors out and the Horned One Riders and replaces that with 5 or 6 Saurus Warriors with shields, he probably wins that. Because the Skinks are very, very good at getting around back and mucking up the back line, the Rangers, the you know, and even mucking up Slayers. Like, Skinks are good Slayer fodder, and he uses chameleons well. Like, Sotek played well, but just didn't bring the build to do the job, because a Kroxigor is just I don't know, with the Giant Slayers now, I don't know if any of the big dinos can really show up unless they can plow through the line and play safe. Because look at all just all the Dowie units that are good against large, like your Slayers, your Thunders, your Rangers, your Cannons. Like, Dowie have the lineup. So the builds you have to bring, I think, as the Lizardmen are just all infantry builds, and maybe Mazdamundi with his Ruination of Cities and some of his bound spells. But yeah, like Uthar's Raiders, 26 kills, but they would be targeting some of the big dinos, and you know, 41 kills for a Kroxigor, a unit that's worth 1,000, very, very poor. This unit, this Feral Stegodon, I think it's only 751 kills, not too bad. And a Pterodon Riders, 30 kills. I think could have brought more than a few Pterodon Riders too to whittle away these the Slayers, but I think the Chameleon Skinks did the job. He could have brought cheaper Skinks, but anyways, it was a, you can see by the amount of health left, it was a very decisive victory in there. And if we go to the other game, it was just here, is this it? Yeah, so this is Calaxalan Soothsayer playing against Loremaster of Sotek. It was not Aerocrastic. Aerocrastic must have beat Indy Pride. So again, in this build, this was an interesting build that Calaxalan Soothsayer brought, which he brought 4 hammers, including the Peak Gate Guard for their magic damage, and you know, just some chaff here, and a lot of very cheap Lord and the Rune Lord, and a lot of ranged, and it was a demolition. Like, Calaxalan Soothsayer only lost 275 dwarfs and kept 746. But again, the army that Sotek brought, unfortunately, he brought these what the hell are they called? You're seeing more of them now. They're the Vargulf. You know, they're not a unit against the Dowie. They're big, they're easy to hit. Yeah, they have armor piercing. Yes, they regenerate, but they have no armor, so they are super vulnerable to just Quarreler fire. And he brought 4 Quarrelers and 2 Rangers. It was just, and they just crushed. This was an absolute crush, and it was like Loremaster, to his degree, to his, I love watching him play and love watching his channel, but to his idea was to kill the Dowie Lord, and he stayed after him with his Blood Knight, or whatever the heck the Bloodlines Lord is, and the Vargulfs tried, and he still couldn't kill the Dowie Lords. Like, the Dowie Lords are really hard to kill. You know, they really are, with the exception of apparently the Vampire Coast, or the Vampirates with their Haunters. haunted Mongols or whatever. Those things are pretty strong because they have anti-infantry and armor piercing. They hit very hard and regenerate, and they regenerate when they're killing. Like, they're very good. So what did we learn in this tournament, or at the end, from terms of the Dawi? It looks like the other lords. It looks like the Rune Lord's been increased to 850 gold base price, and his ability for Rune of Hearth and Home has been increased from 40 meters to 55 meters, which is really good. And this is a really good ability that I quite like. So they've really made him quite a bit better, with that ability now going to be worth taking, I think, in a lot of builds. I don't know if they changed his items. I didn't see any items on any of the builds. 3 builds basically had either just the Master Wrath of Rune, the Master Wrath of Rune, and the Master Rune of Negation. Those 2. And then the last build had all of his abilities: Forge Fire, Rune of Hearth and Home, Master Rune of Oath and Steel, Wrath and Rune, and Negation, but did not have any abilities. Like, if we go to this actual build, yeah, you looked, oh no, it's a little bit back here. Come on. Okay, so Indie Pride's here. You can see this is where the abilities are all there. There are no other abilities than those 5 that show up here. So he didn't bring any extra abilities, unfortunately, which I would have been nice to see. But it could be that these abilities don't show up until the game starts too. That is a possibility. I honestly don't know, but because when I redid Indie Pride's build, there is 236 gold left over, even with the 50 gold taken away or something like that. So we'll see. Anyways, it looks like the Rune Lord is still just the primary pick for the Dawi. We saw Gorbals today. They looked very good. They dominated in a game against Bretonia, which was a super exciting game. You saw some of the lords like Cetra the Imperishable. I thought saw Archaon the Everchosen, which I thought was an awesome pick and really fun. And he looks like he's way more powerful, you know. And we'll see how some of the other factions play out. The Dawi picked 4 times. The Wood Elves were picked 0 times. So I don't know if the Wood Elves got a nerf. Maybe. It's odd that in a tournament like this that the Wood Elves wouldn't be picked any. And one of the other things I like about Aerocrastic is he is a Skaven main. And he played the Skaven twice, and both games were great. And one of the things that, you know, when we did all our testing video with the infantry under 400 gold, the #1 infantry was Skaven slaves, and in both his games, I think he brought 6 Skaven slaves, or 5 or 6 Skaven slaves, and he played the Skaven how they, you know, they looks like they need to be played. I loved it. It was really great, and Skaven are, I think, the losingest faction there is at a 43% overall win rate. Skaven and I think they also said Lizardmen were doing quite poorly. So, you know, I saw a few of the other things with Lizardmen. They did change Cold-Blooded, which I think is a nerf, but they buffed a lot of other things by the sounds of it. So when I looked at Lizardmen, what they did is the ability, where is it, Cold-Blooded, oh, Horn of Kyger, or it's up here somewhere, right there, Cold-Blooded, where this replenishes hit points of combatants, and you can cast it on yourself or an ally, and it reduces their melee defense, melee attack, and speed. What it does now is it stops a unit from rampaging and gives them plus 16 leadership for like 40 seconds or something like that. So it's interesting, the change, which will give Lizardmen more control over their own units. We will make some of their units that can rampage more interesting to take, you know. Yeah, because any unit with this rampage sort of problem, like Horned ones have rampage, or no, Primal Imps, yeah, rampage, and same with Cold One. No, Cold One Spear Riders don't for some reason, nor do the Cold One Riders. But anyways, we'll see how that is. Apparently they buffed a lot of their other stats, their basic stats, and changed cold-blooded. This is not likely to make the Lizardmen on par with the Dowie yet. I still don't think there's a lot to worry about when it comes to Lizardmen. They're very wide builds with lots of Saurus Warriors is still going to be tough. Maybe they're going to get a buff. Really, the Lizardmen need to get their Regiments of Renown so they can sort of refine their builds a little bit, and maybe they have a few more units on the go. I think that's really important, and especially important for the Skaven. You know, the two of the bottom factions in their stats they showed today and yesterday were the Skaven and the Lizardmen, and those are the two factions that need their Regiments of Renown. And it's not that Regiments of Renown, you know, are like an auto win, but they just give you the right units with the right capabilities for the right sort of matchup. And you know, you can look at the Dowie, like the Ulthar's Raiders are a great Regiment of Renown. They have that great ability. Norgrimling's Ironbreakers are amazing in the right situation. Same with Dragonback Slayers are a staple in the Dowie lineup, and slowing things down makes such a big difference. You know, the Goblobber is amazing, even though it hasn't been. We never saw it in this tournament. But anyways, I didn't notice any other changes to Dowie units. I didn't look over every single stat card for both days. I looked over a lot of them to see if I could pick out any other changes, but I didn't see any. And the only one that I really have been able to notice is changes to the Rune Lord being made more expensive, and Rune of Hearth and Home having a 55-meter radius instead of a 40-meter effect range. And also very noticeable was the absence of any other Dowie Lord in the builds. So that's telling me that maybe there was some buffs to basic Dowie Lords, but nothing special. Or we would have seen one of the Dowie Lords in there. And I guess you know, there's not much to go over. The Vampire Coasts are definitely stronger than they looked. There's just no doubt about that. But they're beatable. You know, I don't know if they finished up in wins, or I think I saw them. They play them like 8 times. Maybe they're 50-50 wins loss. They're very close. So they're beatable. They're stronger than I thought. Their vampire infantry is extremely good because they have the hunger, so they regenerate when they're fighting. They have good armor, and they have brutal stats, like amazing, like 60 melee attack and 45 melee defense, something like that. Like 60 melee attack, 45 melee defense. That is like they have the total amount of stats an Ironbreaker has. I think. Yeah, Ironbreaker 68 and 32, so a total of 120 stats, and I think they're 122 stat points, something like that. So they have two more stat points than an Ironbreaker, though they are, and their weapon strength is like 60 or something, or 80. It's really high. Yes, they only have 45 models, but they're pretty strong. They have no shields though, so they'll be very weak to Thunderers. And you know, with 40 melee defense, I mean, that's not too bad. They're not going to be weak to armor piercing, but you could see in the game against Chaos where the Chaos player didn't bring any armor piercing against the zombie pirates, or the vampirates. They actually got crushed. Like those vampire units are very, very good, and some of the rest of the units are really good. They're Carronades, not the Carronades. They have a unit that is a mid-range, has about 225 range. They are holding sort of like a small hand cannon, and they're armor piercing. And one of the units is armor piercing, and one is an ethereal unit with magic damage. They're not too bad, and their deck gunners are pretty good too, because they're armor piercing. So that is going to be something you may see. Now they are very vulnerable. They're going to, like in this matchup, you have to bring, as the Dowie, going to have to bring some ranged. You know, you just Quarrelers or Rangers, they'll both be fine. I think the Bugman's Rangers, as we talked about yesterday, are the optimum pick in this matchup because they're so good and they can regenerate. You know, maybe the Iron Drakes are going to be the unit, maybe a unit of Thunders, maybe Ulthar's Raiders, I don't know. I think 1 unit of Thunders, 2 units of Bugman's Rangers, maybe a unit of Iron Drakes, 2 units of regular Rangers. I don't know. Like, I think you're gonna need 3 to 5 back row ranged to be able to deal with what the Vampire Coast can bring. So, really 3 to 5 at a minimum. I think going all infantry is a definite mistake. I don't know about, just don't know about artillery. I think the bolt thrower could be very, very good in this matchup. You know, hard to say. You know, I saw the zombie pirates, the carronades are very accurate, and in the very beginning, and they can boost their accuracy quite well. I saw them take out Empire cannons quite easily, but Empire cannons are Dwarf cannons are not as easy to take out as Empire cannons. You know, but would bolt throwers be able to counter battery against those carronades? I don't know. Maybe. They don't have the range. Carronades are 440. I think, or maybe 450, just like in the cannons 440, so they outrange your cannons a little bit. Could be a bit of an issue, hard to say. You know, Goblobber might actually do a really good job because zombies have very low leadership, so this whole dropping their leadership by 16 might get them crumbling if it hits not the artillery piece, but the zombies controlling it. Like, you know, this Goblobber may be really, really strong in counter battery against the zombies because they don't have a lot of leadership back there. Hard to say what Queen Bess is going to do if you're going to see it against the Dowie. I still like a basic rush build with the Dowie against the zombie pirates. It really just makes a lot of sense to me. Like, you could certainly, you know, bring your Rune Lord and your Runesmith. I think it could be a pretty good lineup with a very basic loadout. I think you could also make a case that Engram Iron Fist is going to be amazing in this fight. You know, you could bring him pretty cheap. I think Ironbreakers might be really good, and Norgrimling's Ironbreakers might be ridiculous in this fight. You know, like a front line sort of like this. Maybe a couple of Slayers. Dragonback Slayers in the back. Couple of Bugman's Rangers, sort of. And then maybe, you know, a couple of Dwarf Warriors for sort of chaff control, depending on where they show up. And you sort of got yourself, you got sort of a backline defense with your Longbeards and your Miners, maybe. I don't know. I think something like that, you know, you could even get rid of the Miners with Blasting. Miners with Blasting Charges could be really good in this. So maybe there, but you got your Blasting Charges with your Ironbreakers too. You just want your Dwarf Warriors to go out front and break up the charge. But you know, you could easily bring just 2 Quarrelers like that. And you know, there's a very small, elite but tough army for them to take, right? So I still think that the Dowie are going to win out in this matchup. I could be wrong, but it just, watching the games and like we saw the Vampire Pirates play a whole heck of a lot, it just looks like the Dowie are going to have an advantage. And you know, when I see, there we go, yeah, here's the Lore Master Sotek. You know, when I watched how the like, yeah, here's those freaking Vampire, they're 51 kills, very strong. You know, the Fellbats, the Carronades, he lost to Talaxalan Soothsayers, Dark Elves, but it was a really good game, really a very interesting game to watch. And these Deck Gunners, 33 and 22 kills in this, they over and over, they actually perform pretty well. They're very interesting, and maybe I can pick up this game with, let's see, just try and find some other games with the zombies. Yeah, this game was very interesting with Indie Pride and Lore Master Sotek. Thought it was fantastic to watch. And Indie Pride brought 3 Carronades, brought Count Noculus on his Necrofex Colossus mount, and a second Necrofex Colossus. They got like 83 and 60 kills. brought a lot of gunners. It was a really fun match to watch, and Karl Franz was kicking some butt in there. It was really good, but he brought the Luminarch of Hysh, which didn't work so well, and the cannons, the zombie cannons did okay against the Empire cannons, and he didn't have, Indy Pride didn't bring any of the vampires, so let's see if we can find a match with them, because that will, okay, so that's not going to show. Aerocrastic, Talaxlan Soothsayer. This show, oh, that's against the Skaven. Oh, that Skaven match was so good. It's really fun seeing someone play the Skaven as good as their Aerocrastic. Like, really, I just loved watching them play, to be honest. Yeah, okay, so here's Aerocrastic versus Talaxlan. Lost with the Empire against Talaxlan's zombie pirates, and you can see here's his vampire pirates. They're all almost full health, 40, 87, and 89 kills, and there was some decent enough units in here, but Aerocrastic just couldn't bring that home to bear, and Talaxlan Soothsayer was able to take that one home. But the Carronade, 42 kills, but it was really 40, 87, and 89 with these vampires. And as you can see, they're all full health. And his leadership is full health too. Those are scary, scary units. It's hard to say how good they're going to be. You're going to see them, though, against the Dowie. I didn't think you would because they don't have armor piercing, but you will. They're really good. And they stood up well against, you know, everything they pretty much went up against, unless they were focused down, like the one battle which was completely awesome. I don't know which game it was, but it was Norska versus the Vampire Coast, and Norska brought a mammoth, and the mammoth just totally decimated, just ran through these guys. It was fantastic. It was a great fight. And I actually just loved it. It was really good. It might have been Talaxlan Soothsayer versus Aerocrastic. It could have been. I don't know. It was on a winter map, so yeah, that is not it. But it was a great match to watch. Yeah, there's that Beastman match. Is this it? No, that's that one. Huh. Okay. Well, I don't remember which match it was, but anyways, I think the Dowie builds are going to be really fun, and I hope to be doing a lot of testing right when the Vampire Coast comes out, and hopefully I'll get on ladder and play some games, and because the Vampire Coast is going to be played a lot, I should be able to get a lot of games with the Dowie to test full builds and test the lords and test any changes and everything else like that. I can't wait till it comes out. The tournament was fantastic. I mean, I really hope CA continues to put effort into multiplayer and the multiplayer scene, because this game is meant for multiplayer, right? I mean, Warhammer is a is a multiplayer game from the 80s, and you know, CA has just never ever put a whole lot of effort in multiplayer because they've always been about campaign. But this is the one game where the multiplayer potential, I think, is higher than the campaign potential. It's just fantastic games today, and like I say, I mean, you gotta support what you love in this world, and if you want to see more multiplayer games, go to the forums on CA, say, hey, great tournament, loved it, bring me some more, and any chance you get, encourage the players that played. Definitely hit up Janet on occasion, Turin, Italian Spartacus, Indy Pride, Loremaster of Sotek, Gobble King, Talaxlan Soothsayer, Aerocrastic, you know, like these guys that all played, hit them up and say awesome job, great tournament, and encourage them for sure. And definitely be sure to leave some sort of notes for CA somewhere to say awesome, I want to see more of that, because it was so entertaining and so fun. And even if you're not super enthused about multiplayer, it is one of those things that, you know, if campaign is your thing and multiplayer is just sort of like you like to dabble, it doesn't hurt to go and encourage and say good job, CA. And that will help the campaign community. The bigger this game gets, the better it is for everyone. That's the point. Anyways, hope you found this video interesting. Looking forward to comments down below, and I will see you soon.